film room with the coaches. So, really, I think it's an education piece, because I think right now players could be using CBD and still passing drug tests, but they're all so afraid of failing the drug test that they're not going to realize what they have available to them to help them take care of their bodies. And my biggest thing is, we go out there and we literally give our lives for the owners, for our towns, for the NFL. And I think the least they can do is give us as many reasonable means to take care of ourselves as possible. And for them to take such a hard stance against cannabis, I see it changing in the near future, but it changes when guys like us get up and tell our stories, and people like you get out and tell your stories. I mean, so many people, and to a certain extent, I was guilty of it too. My excuse was every time I talked about cannabis, it was headlines in the paper, and my coach was always pissed at me. But people who use cannabis and find ways that they're still, I wouldn't even say still, people that use cannabis and it contributes to their lives, but then they hide it from everyone else, that's not doing anyone any justice. I'm not saying you have to push it on people who walk around with a megaphone, but I think if you see someone and you can tell, wow, maybe cannabis could help you, and there's, now you can take capsules, you can smoke, you can vape, there's patches, there's high THC, there's no THC, there's so many options out for people, that there's so many ways that we can help ourselves, improve the quality of our lives, but everyone wants to keep it a secret, everyone wants to worry about them and what people are going to think about me. Fuck that,
Yeah!
That's something I would say. That's really my lines. I was in New Orleans and we had Mardi Gras. I stayed back there instead of going to a Pro Bowl. And I got on the stage next to some kid. I was like, they wanted me to go to the Pro Bowl. And I said, fuck that shit. And a big stage, and there's like thousands of families in this event. So, yeah, you're stealing my lines.
I love this guy. I have to tell this story. It's not related, but it's a great story. So, it was after 9/11, and we were in New Orleans, and we were scheduled to have, they canceled all the games after 9/11, so we were scheduled to have a bye week, and NFL coaches don't like players to be off for a long time, so we come in and have a meeting, and Coach Haslett starts talking about we're going to fly up to Pittsburgh and practice against the Steelers since they have a bye week. Kyle was eating a banana, and he got up the banana against the wall and said, fuck that shit, we're not going anywhere, we need to be with our families. And sure enough, we got to stay home and practice and didn't have to go to Pittsburgh.
That's right. It's the first thank you. Well, I got some thank yous from some upper office guys.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't want to go to Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's a mic floating around. We're here to answer questions as well. So I guess we'll start passing the microphone around. If anybody's got any questions, I know it's running to the end of the day. If we could maybe, I guess, who's going to help us out here? Thank you.
I was going to ask if you would speak more personally about your involvement with cannabis, but you've done that. So I'd like to ask what you guys are doing locally, politically, and how you're pushing, your voice forward in this movement. To legalize.
Sure. I mean, I think every one of us up here, is doing that, is just adding our voice. I mean, at the end of the day, we can only tell our stories, and that, I think, is resonating with the rest of America right now. It's starting to get on to the mainstream talk shows and out of this stigma. And hopefully that will continue. A lot of big media publications are starting to come on board with this, and with that comes the change. I think it helps everything. It helps in policy, it helps in everything else as it changes the minds of these people who dictate those things. And when they start to educate themselves, and no longer be able to just sit there and say, oh, of course, that guy does it, when they look at guys that are up here that have achieved these great accomplishments that their kids, their own children are trying to achieve, I think that pushes that conversation hopefully where it needs to go.
Also, I would like to say, I think this is my best guess, is I think where we are in this story is we're the guys that open the door for the guys who come behind us. I think we look back in 20 years and look at athletes who were pro-cannabis, they're going to be talking about the young guys right now, and we're the guys that open the door to make that possible. I think when the young guys see us being honest and talking about our experiences, they become a little less fearful of doing so. And I think that's the most we can do. But But I think, for me, for instance, just showing up in the world and not hiding things, just showing up. I went to this spiritual retreat place, and it was just a couple weeks ago, and I just get so used to being in California that I forget that it gets cold other places. So the only sweatshirt I had was a Weed Map sweatshirt, and I was thinking, okay, I'm going into the spiritual retreat with a Weed Map sweatshirt. And I was like, fuck it. And I remember the last day, a girl came up to me and she was like, hey, we're smoking up there behind the campground if you want to come with us. And I realized, it's so ingrained in us to be secretive and to hide it, that it's something that we have to undo. I mean, it's literally, I think it's in our DNA. If you grew up in the 80s watching Nancy Reagan on television or sitting through those DARE conferences, it just gets drilled into your head that something is bad for you that's not. And I remember my first experience when I was like, I smoked and I was like, I didn't feel like jumping off of a building. They were lying to me. And as a matter of fact, I feel better than I felt in a while. And when do we make feeling good a bad thing?
That's the question. Thank you. Yes.
I have a two-part question. Are any of you guys in the industry right now? And two, if you could, would you speak up at, let's say, a rookie workshop and talk about your experience with cannabis and how it's changed your life as opposed to opiates and recommend it? Or, I know the football industry is not looking positively on it, but would you, if they were to change their minds as far as speaking to rookies?
Oh, most definitely. I know myself. I've proposed that to the National Football League. I've proposed a cannabis committee to the National Football League, and so we're just waiting. I think that we're all here as well to continue to get involved in the industry. I think we would. If you're going to be a part of it, if you're going to talk about it, you got to be about it. And that's my opinion. And so, this plan, I'm very familiar with this plan. It has done wonders for my life, and so I want to know everything about it. So with that, I've gotten to know a lot of people in the industry through becoming involved and educating myself in ways that I can get into the industry and help produce products as well that can help along those same lines. We released a product, a straight CBD, no THC. I was able to partner with a group out of one of these conventions that I met a while back, and I think we're all doing that. That we want to help the people that are helping the community already and help to add a voice and a face that can help market these products. Ricky's working with Weed Maps, and Eugene is doing some great work with the Realm of Caring and the CW Farms guys. And so we're here to work with the community and as well continue to do our own things, cultivation, all these other things, so we can put the right studies together, because I personally understand the fight against it. I gave a great speech at the Emerald Cup that Cheryl shot as well up there, and that's been taken down off of YouTube. I understand that there is a big fight against us, and so in my opinion, I think it's necessary for players to not only speak about this as consumers, but get involved into the business, because that helps as well. As I've seen, they're going to attack all of you. They're going to attack, and because they don't want to talk to the media about what I have to say. They want to talk about these things. If the media was here today, they're going to sit and talk about the cocaine dealer that was here. Unfortunately, and that's what they're going to focus on. And so the more we can interject ourselves into the conversation and contribute our voices to this community, involved in just not voicing, but in the actual business. A few of us made some chips in the business of football, and so we have some money to invest, and we believe in this, and we know it. And so, I think it's a whole part. If you're going to talk about it, you must be about it. And being about it is getting involved.
I have a question. You were talking about how it's helped you with your brain injury, but then you went on the roller coaster and it kind of kicked in again.
Yeah, well, it's sensitive.
With your brain scans, is it showing that it's somehow stopping the progression, or is it reversing any of the damage? Do you have that plaque?
Yes.
Is that what the issue is?
Oh, yes.
Is it helping to reverse it at all, or the minute you stop it, do you have the problems again?
So over the last year that I've been off opiates, I'd love to get another brain scan to maybe go back But at the same time, I understand the sensitive nature. You know, this has created a very sensitive issue with myself personally, and so any little thing can incite it. It can get it going, and these things can start to happen for me. So I have to rely on what I know through what I've received in cannabis and finding my strain that deals with these issues. I wouldn't be able to sit here without sunglasses and a hat on a year ago, and so it deals with specific issues. Is this reversing? I'd like to know and see that. Currently in a brain scan of any football player, you can take a basic MRI and it starts to show up as a blurred mass, and that blurred mass got bigger in the scans that followed after my first one that showed it. And so the science says it's a progressive disease. Statistics have proven that there's no good outcome to this for football players. So I took part in some major studies that show CTE in living brains, and it's there. The progressive nature of it, I'm concerned about quite heavily. But I'm also very optimistic and very excited about what I have found in cannabis to help me deal with that. While we have our teammates and friends continuing to die of ALS that they're linking this brain disease to, Parkinson's and Alzheimer's and dementia, and our community is failing very, very dearly to this. I look at the other guys that are using cannabis consistently, and there are some old guys that carry around briefcases full of cannabis that played on the first Super Bowl team, and they're outliving all their counterparts. And so my hope is that we get to the bottom where science I don't have to inject myself again with more radiation to light this thing up and see how big or small it is again, because I know it's there, and I know it's progressive. I know that these things are manifesting to me daily, that this is maybe getting worse, but to be able to have a medicine to deal with that is what this is about. I would gladly do it over again. Football was a dream. To make it to the National Football League is a dream of many children in America today, including my own son. And so I don't want to I will not hand him the same game, and I will not hand him the same medicines to deal with the outcome. So I hope that it's not progressing too bad.
Yeah, that's the hope.
Yes.
I was going to say, I think that's a great question, and I think at this point, we have to wait for research to catch up. But the one thing that I think we can all attest to is and anyone who's dealing with anything. I mean, we played a game for a long time that was very brutal. I mean, how many people have here been in a car accident? You know, we've been in hundreds of car accidents, and so a lot of us are dealing with pain every day. And I think as far as improving the quality of our lives so that we can enjoy however many years we have left, I mean, that's something that I think we can all speak to accurately and honestly.
I'm told that we need to wrap up, so we'll take one more question, and then these guys will probably be around after, so if y'all want to catch them after, please do.
Thank you, gentlemen. I just have a quick question. Have you thought about recruiting major sports announcers into your effort?
Major sports announcers?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we can only tell our stories and hope that they listen. You know, we've had a lot of guys that have pseudo-listened and put us on their shows, you know. We've had some national publications that have done some big pieces. Katie Quirk just did a big piece that you think would have sparked interviews on Fox News and these other ESPN sports channels and casters to talk about this. But unfortunately, all of those people as well are controlled. And that's the problem. And so hopefully, my thing's kicking the door in. That's my deal, really. I don't wait, you know. I see a problem, I fix it. And we have a major problem. And they know it, and they've kind of sent messages back to me saying, yeah, we're going to get to it, you know. But we're going to kick the door down, so don't worry.
Yeah, I'll say what I've noticed, you know, going back to 2004 when the conversation first started. I sat down with Mike Wallace for 60 minutes, and he gave me a hard time about it. And what I find now, 12 years later, is the interviews that I've done, people, the writers, the broadcasters, the ones that actually use cannabis, I feel like they're finally given permission to be not against it. They're not for it yet, but they're more open-minded, and they write articles that I think are fair. Before it was always, this is the bad stuff, this is the bad person. I think now that science is starting to catch up and the public is starting to catch up. And, you know, I think the biggest mistake that people make is they look to us to be a voice, and we have a voice, but if no one listens to us, which is you all, nothing happens. And I think the way this country was built, we were given a voice, and it's called our ability to vote. And I think the more people that are willing to put their time and their energy where their mouths are, I think that's when change happens. The more that you guys speak, the louder our voices get, and the more change can happen.
And you guys are the fans. I mean, at the end of the day, the NFL listens to the fans. They don't listen to us. They don't, I mean, that's why we've had such a problem getting traction with a lot of retired player issues, because the fans think everybody's got a money tree in our backyard, and it just is never ending. And then they give their right arm to do what we did, but they didn't. And so it gets thrown on a lot of deaf ears. And the NFL listens to one person. These sports leagues listen, the politicians, they only listen to you guys. We can be that mouthpiece for you, but at the end of the day, as Ricky said, you have to get to the polls, you have to vote, because that's what they really care about, is keeping their jobs. And if they have a risk of losing their job because they're not going to get your vote, then they'll do something about it.